Yo, what's up, everybody? My name is Jeremy Schumacher. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm the Jer in Wellness with Jer. Thanks for stopping by and checking out the channel today. We're doing a review of the brand new Superman movie. I got in to see an early screening of it, not because I'm like bougie or fancy, but I got a chance to see it last night already, and we're gonna do the first half of the review, spoiler free, and then we'll maybe first few minutes. I'll let you know, and then we'll get into some of the stuff about it. So, you know, Man of Steel came out in 2013, and it was dark and brooding, and Superman kills someone right away. And since then, James Gunn has left Marvel and come over to DC and done some really good stuff and some less good stuff. And so here was his swing at Superman. And I'll say I liked it. I thought it was really good. It had like it simultaneously felt like a Superman movie and very obviously a James Gunn movie, but it wasn't like dependent on the soundtrack being awesome. I think some of like James Gunn's both good tendencies that can be really good in the right context and not work so well in others were a little bit more muted. It was pretty much a straight superhero film, which was fine. You're going to see Superman, so the fact that it's a superhero movie is fine. It introduced some like I don't know morality. It's an alien versus the billionaire bad guy. Like that's always what Superman has been. So some pretty like simple and sweet morality. I will say, coming out of the film, I thought it was really good. I thought Superman was very likable. I thought Lois was good. Some of the side characters probably needed to be fleshed out more. Like Hawkgirl doesn't do a lot. Some of the side characters absolutely steal the show and will probably be around more. Crypto and Mr. Terrific are the obvious ones. I mean, Crypto's heavily featured in the trailer, so like he's there. Guy Gardner was really good. The Green Lantern, it's just as like an unlikable character. So I think some of the side characters coming out will be like in other stuff. We already know Guy Gardner, played by Nathan Fillion, is going to be in Peacemaker season 2. So I haven't seen anything else about Mr. Terrific, but I would be shocked if he's not the big character winner coming out of the Superman franchise, either getting his own show, probably his own show, maybe his own movie at some point. But he was a fun, engaging character that was like true to the comic books without, I think, losing people because it was too much of a deep cut. So it was just like a lot of fun. It was hopeful. I think critically, spoiler free, critically, I would say like already some of the CGI didn't look awesome, and I think that will age poorly. And yeah, like it's not revolutionary. It doesn't revolutionize Superman, which I would argue is a good thing. That's why people didn't like Zack Snyder's attempt. Or people really loved Zack Snyder's attempt. Again, I like Man of Steel in 2013. I rewatched it a few years ago and thought it held up fine. I don't mind. Didn't mind that Superman killed someone. I thought the Justice League was not good. It was a mess. So, like the Snyderverse, I think was on balance not awesome, but had some good stuff. But it was very dark and brooding. And like, it's 2025. The world's pretty dark and brooding. There's not a lot of hope. And so leaning into a Superman that is full of hope and his humanity and his undying optimism are his superpowers, like, yeah, that's cool. Like, I left feeling better than when I went to see it. I was both entertained and like, my dog's staring at me. I was both entertained and thought it was a pleasant superhero film. Okay, go see it. It's good. It's worth. I don't know how much movies cost, $13 or whatever. It's a fun way to spend a few hours. It's entertaining. It's not overly taxing. It's like a spectacle without being overwhelming. It's not like high media. It's a superhero film, but it's fun and it makes you feel like good about people. And I think that's as much as we can ask for some of our entertainment sometimes. It's not going to win an Oscar, right? But it's a superhero movie. It's not supposed to. Okay. End of spoiler free review. Stop watching if you don't want my deeper cuts on some of the plot points, on some of the characters. Um, End of spoiler free part. Spoilers, beware. Okay. Um, so I thought Lex Luthor was really good, and some of that is like based in contrast to again the Snyderverse. Like Luthor was one of the big misses. Was Jesse Eisenberg. Nicholas Holt plays the new Lex Luthor, and he's British, but like I just happen to know that it's not like he's Brit. He doesn't play Lex as a British man. He plays Lex pretty convincingly as like an arrogant billionaire asshole and like a bad guy. So that's good. He's been obsessively studying Superman. He actually has cloned him. Twist. Spoiler. I gave you all the spoiler warnings. So he has been studying him and uses all of that to predict Superman's moves. And I thought that was like pretty well done, all things considered. A way to give a foil to Superman, his clone, without having it be like too hokey. The reveal was a little bit of like, that's overdone, a clone, but like not like groan inducing throughout the entire audience. I didn't think it was just like not shocking. I guess the boys didn't do that, did they? But the comic book of the boys famously very much used that for like their spoof of their satire of Superman versus Homelander. Um, Spoiler for the boys comic book that's been out since like 2004 or whatever. So I was like, fine. I don't know. What if we didn't do clones? And James Gunn does a nice job. It's what he did with Marvel. It's what he's done with DC so far of like bringing in a wide roster of characters without too much like side eyeing. Like I'm excited to see and or hear something about like Kite Man getting a movie. I would love to see a Booster Gold movie. Like I don't know, some of these characters, because I read a lot of comics, have grown on me a lot in the past couple of years. So, like, seeing Mr. Terrific was awesome. He's featured in some of Tom King's big standalone series, and it translated well to the big screen. Maybe not a character who you thought would. Seeing Guy Gardner was awesome. He's delightfully dislikable, and it's great. A like nitpicky thing I had with Man of Steel was like Amy Adams as Lois Lane, because she's very famously Amy Adams, I mean, is a redhead, and she was a redhead as Lois Lane. And just like that's a small cosmetic thing. But again, I don't think you need to be entirely beholden to telling a shot for shot remake of a great graphic novel to stay true to the comics. But like, yeah, it worked. The main trio, Lex, Lois, and Clark, were all played very well. I liked that Clark's parents were very Kansas-y, because that's something Man of Steel, again, I think was like a bit of a swing and a miss on. I liked that it wasn't an origin story and we jumped in. I mean, Superman is new-ish, 3 years, but we're not doing the origin story. We don't do the big shock and awe. Like the people of Metropolis seem almost like he's a local celebrity, more than a local celebrity, but also like they're not evacuating the city at every terrible thing. They're just like, ugh, watch out for that giant monster. And so I think in that universe, it's interesting. It's established that superheroes exist because there's a talk show segment that Lex Luthor goes on. There's a nice little cameo for Peacemaker. I'm rewatching Peacemaker season 1 to prep for season 2 and to talk about how Vigilante is autistic coded. Um, Upcoming spoiler for my YouTube channel, upcoming video. So it's a nice like little nod there to some of James Gunn's other stuff, Peacemaker being in it. So Yeah, the soundtrack. James Gunn has like a reputation of doing the good soundtracks, especially since Guardians of the Galaxy featured like the Awesome Mix Volume 1. And it was just a bit of his calling card. I think he peaked. I'll say he peaked with Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that's the one that was like most popular and most well received. It's still like in rotation when you go to a vinyl store, or like Barnes and Noble is carries a bunch of vinyl soundtracks. Like it's there, so like big enough for that. I would say like multiple printings. His best work was Creature Commandos in a not close competition. If you're going off of songs that I like, because that animated show on HBO Max is not my favorite. It's a lot of bad superhero tropes, but the soundtrack is all Corpiclani and Gogol Bordello, which respectively are a Finnish folk metal band and gypsy punk, and it's amazing how well they work together. Um, but yeah, Creature Commandos is really good. It was more subdued. They brought in and like played with sort of the classic Superman theme that we would recognize from like Christopher Reeve's 1970s Superman. Like if you grew up around it, it's got that like orchestra feel of like the Adventures of Superman, the animated series, which is what I grew up with as a millennial. You know, Batman the animated series and Superman back to back after school most days was a chunk of my formative years. So it had that feel, but like the songs they use work really well. Punk Rocker by Teddy Bear, the Iggy Pop version, like that's saw the movie last night and that I have listened to that song 15 times since then. Um, so like it just worked really well. I think some of the best bits of the movie were Lana and Clark. Lana. I was gonna do a like whole thing with Smallville. Um, Lois and Clark going back and forth, and some of that shown in the trailer. But the rest of the scene was like pretty good, and I think made both of them seem really accessible in a way. I'm a marriage therapist by trade, so it was a real couples fight, and I thought that was really well done. And it just sort of worked for like them being reporters and knowing each other and being in a relationship. So I thought that was really good without being like overly. They have a big like he flies off, not flies off. They are kissing and he lifts them into the air and like whatever triumphant scene later in the film. But like the early start to their sort of rocky relationship, they're a few months into dating. It's like that was good, I thought, and engaging, and made them both seem real. The Superman is fallible, and again, like I think that's the big knock against Superman in the comics is he can't lose. Like he very famously died in '94 or whatever it was. And I think that's what the Snyderverse got wrong with like they just jumped the shark on so many of the big Superman things. Like Superman killing somebody isn't what you lead with. That is a shock later. And then killing Superman a movie later is like, again, that's a shock later when people are tired of Superman can't be beat. Then you finally beat him. But this Superman is fallible in the sense that like his decision making isn't always great. He's not great at the PR stuff. He hasn't sorted some of the like political quagmire that he steps in by saving people, and he's just like, I'm saving people. I don't care about your human borders. I don't care about this. Like people were gonna die. I saved them. That's what I do. And like there's a reality check to that is also that's like very sweet and I think will come across as naive. But as an adult, I really liked it as somebody who's exhausted by like the stupidity of our political discourse. And you know, we're going through all these obvious impacts of climate change, and we're funding, you know, stormtroopers instead of taking care of climate change, or you know, we're funding tax cuts for billionaires instead of protecting little kids being shot in their schools in America here. Like it's exhausting, and the disingenuousness of like the political discourse, and just to have like somebody sort of shout like people were going to get hurt, so I saved them, is like, yeah, what if we just had sort of a humanist basis to like people deserve basic needs to be met: food, water, shelter. They deserve dignity. Like, what if we treated people like people instead of pretending like your skin color mattered or how much money was in your bank account mattered. Like we are all going to die and we could make our existence less miserable together. Hey, let's do that. Let's do that and not make people have to earn it. It would be fun. And I think that's sort of what appealed to me as an adult that like if I was an angsty teenager, I might not have vibed with. Probably why I wasn't an angsty teenager when Man of Steel came out, but probably why like Superman wasn't my favorite. I liked the more dark and brooding Batman. When The Dark Knight came out, like, yeah, Heath Ledger's Joker was awesome. And that was like interesting. And Watchmen came out, and that was great. And I loved the deconstruction of the superhero. And, I'm not like old, but it was nice to watch a hopeful movie instead of a dark and brooding movie. And I think that's one of the things that people who have been around the character, a ton of different comic book writers and artists were on the set for this film. Um, I had an interview with Jason Aaron from my podcast, and I follow him on Instagram, and I know he was on set a couple of different times. So, like, James Gunn getting the people who get the character, his love of comic books definitely comes through in his films. But like that sort of quintessential, like Superman isn't the best because he's the strongest, or he has the least number of weaknesses, or he can't be beat. Superman's the best because like he wants everyone to be the best. He's the best because he doesn't give up. He is eternally patient and he wants to be helpful to his core. And I think like that is very hopeful right now. Like that's nice. Um, and it was a little bit of a fun thing with like him finding the full message from his parents not being what he wanted it to be, and him having to work through that was really good, I thought, and sort of a like you're not fate hasn't decided for you. Like you can choose to be kind, and that helps. You could do something that would make things better or worse. You could do something that would be helpful or not. And choosing to be kind, choosing to be helpful matters. And I think that was really nice. I think building in sort of Superman's fallibility is not based on the powers he has, but that he cannot help everyone. And that drives him crazy because he wants to help everyone. So that was all really good. I think for our time in history, it was nice to have a hopeful movie. I don't know what that means for this movie to age because will it, you know, feel great if we figure our shit out? Which is like spoiler alert, we're not going to. But if we were to, will it feel so important to have a hopeful movie? Will this movie age well? Like I think time will tell, but the idea that billionaires make a lot of money off of war and people's misery because they don't think of poor people as people is pretty pressing. I think putting people in cages without due process makes you the bad guy is pretty obviously a thing that it's talking about with Lex's interdimensional prison. Um, it was a little weird, I will say, around sort of its treatment of women. Like Lex is a bad guy and he treats women very poorly, and then Jimmy Olsen is like women are fawning over him oddly when he's supposed to not be like, Clark Kent's a smoke show and Jimmy Olsen is not. And but like that's a little thing they introduced. Like all the women love Jimmy, and it ends up mattering in the movie, and it's fine. But he's like kind of mean to some of the women in a way that like plays for laughs, at least in the audience that I was in, but was like, he's just kind of being mean. Um, but I don't know. I didn't love it, and it is not his character as far as I know. So, um, but so like the people who want to be like, oh, it's woke, like I don't think so. It wasn't like clear of it all questionable messaging. It wasn't super progressive. Again, to think that there are no ethical billionaires and that you shouldn't put people in cages are not revolutionary ideas. And if you think that's political, then like I don't know why you went to see a superhero film. Again, the people who get mad about superhero films being political have always missed the point of superheroes, which is they're fictional commentaries on modern society. they could be fun little bright colors, but like Superman as this idea of like blanket American patriotism only works if Superman is doing things that are like admirable. It's not nationalism. It's what makes America great, which would be like the melting pot and the can-do attitude, the eternal optimism. I like, I've never ascribed to Superman as like a patriotic figure. That's not particularly of interest. He's an alien and he takes care of the entire globe. He's not American because his spaceship landed in Kansas. Um, and that's great because like people are people and we should treat them as such. And he wants to help people, not just the people of Metropolis because that's where he happens to be, not just the people of Kansas because that's where he left, everybody, not just the penguins in Antarctica. He saves a squirrel at one point. Like he's trying to help everybody. If he can help them, he's going to. And like I think that's nice. And I think for idea of like healing in community and humans, let's see each other as human and love each other as human. It's like, yeah, that's a good message right now. And the characters who aren't doing that are the bad guys. And certainly the characters who are funneling money into different countries for either oil or their own money back or whatever, and guys with guns attacking unarmed people and people being locked up and put in cages without any due process for doing nothing wrong other than existing. Yeah, I don't know if that makes it political. Don't read X-Men. Um, yeah, I just not interested in like the Snyderverse fanboys review bombing this movie. I think that's silly. Um, or the people who are like, it's woke. Like, yo, it's a fictional story. If you think Superman being against billionaires and being against people being locked up when they didn't do anything wrong makes him woke, like that says more about you than whoever worked on this movie. So, it's good. It's a good film. I think it's worth seeing. It's like some of the commentary online is exhausting and our world is kind of exhausting. And so the Superman figure is nice as like an intentional escape, not to like hold our breath for a hero. Because again, like that's why Watchmen existed to be like superheroes lead to the authoritarian state as well. Who watches the Watchmen works as a deconstruction. When you've done too much of this, we trust the meta-humans because they are meta-human narrative is taken to its end. But like, I don't know, at this time and place, Superman was nice. Um, it was fun. I think they can do some fun stuff with it. Do I need 13 more Superman movies with this exact cast? No. Will I be stoked to see Guy Gardner and Mr. Terrific and some of these other side characters show up elsewhere? Yes. One of the bigger spoilers, I think, is Kara shows up at the end, uh, and she's revealed to sort of be the reason that crypto has such bad behavior. And like, I want a Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow movie. That Tom King standalone comic he did was really, really good. And I don't think the way they introduced Kara makes that a possibility, which is a bit of a bummer. But like, yeah, I loved Vision, and we got WandaVision, and it was really good without being a shot for shot remake. I will absolutely 100% take a shot for shot remake of Mr. Miracle. Sign me up. But yeah, I'm not like a in James Gunn we trust kind of person, but I do think I had some reservations going into this film, and I wasn't sure how it would be, and it was like I was pleasantly surprised. It was really good for a superhero movie, and in that context, like I enjoyed it. I'm gonna travel later this summer and get to see some nieces and nephews, and if they want to go see Superman in theaters, like I'd go see it again. Like, I don't need to. I'm not rushing out to do it. It's not my favorite film of all time. It's not even my favorite superhero film, but it was good. It was entertaining. It was enjoyable, and I think it's worth the watch. And I think it's worth the watch for people who are interested in some of the other stuff. Like again, some of the confirmed characters of season 2 of Peacemaker make that interesting. And I don't want this to jinx anything, but I do think Mr. Terrific will be the character to come out of this film series and like really get popular. Um, so, yep, acting was good. It was made well. Again, some of the CGI was a little bit like, that already doesn't look great and might not age that well. Um, you're a bad guy if you treat dogs poorly. Like that's in the movie for sure. It did a good job of like humanizing Superman. He doesn't treat the dog poorly. He's not a great dog owner, but then we learned it's not his dog. And yeah, Lex is like it got an audible like people were mad about Lex treating Crypto poorly. So that's good. That restores some of my faith in humanity that like we all love dogs. So yeah, I think DC gets silly. Like if you've read the comics, they're comics. They don't all need to be like dark and brooding and serious. Sometimes they're very silly. And so, the scene where Lex's online army is monkeys all strapped to computers typing nonsense on Twitter to like trend negative about Superman. It's like that's very funny. And like in DC, everything is better with monkeys. So like a little, I think the fan service were like some of the deeper cuts, but like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It wasn't like off-putting. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited some of the offshoots. I think if you're a fan of DC, like HBO Max has a lot of that stuff, and like Creature Commandos is worth a watch. That sort of flew under the radar from James Gunn, but I think was good. I don't think I did a review of that. But yeah, it's like a nice reboot, and it doesn't. The fans don't need to be tribalistic about it. Like when I grew up, when I was coming up in my teenage years, reading some comics and then not reading comics for a while and getting back to it, I was like, why does Superman have 3 different energy bodies of red, white, and blue? What is going on in the Justice League here? Like, it's gone through some iterations, and some of them work well and some of them don't. And I think, I'm sure Zack Snyder is going to see this movie and like it, because I think if you like comic book characters, you're excited for a good story that is told well, or a mediocre story that is told in an entertaining fashion, and that's what this is. So I think people need to chill out about the fandom. I don't know that we need superhero movies to be the only thing Hollywood's churning out. I do think there's some burnout there, but again, like this one, I went in with some reservations, and it was a pleasant surprise. I liked it. So solid. I don't know. I don't know. I would have to scale it on superhero movies. It was fun. It's worth a watch. B plus superhero movie. But that means I liked it. It was good. Go see it. I talked about some other stuff. I'm rewatching Peacemaker. I'm excited for Peacemaker season 2. Some of that is because I'm a pro wrestling fan, and so I'll watch. I like to boo John Cena, and he's a heel right now. But John Cena's turn in Hollywood has been entertaining, and I'm gonna have a video coming out shortly about Vigilante, Peacemaker's sidekick. So I've got some of that stuff coming up, and that's sort of the DC stuff, I guess. But I'm a comic book nerd. I like to talk about this stuff. I like to talk about the psychology in superheroes. If you want to listen to me and Jason Aaron, who wrote Thor for 7 years and is writing Superman right now, you can check out my podcast, Your Therapist Needs Therapy. Like and subscribe. It helps people find my work. And if there's something that you would like to hear me talk about, drop down in the comments and let me know. All right. Peace, y'all. Take care of yourself. Take care of somebody else.